When you think of pyramids, you think of Egypt, right? But what if I told you Sudan has twice as many? While Egypt has around 138, Sudan is home to a staggering 255 ancient structures. These were built by the powerful Kingdom of Kush, who even ruled Egypt as the Black Pharaohs. Unlike the wide Egyptian giants, these pyramids are much steeper, narrower, and smaller. The most famous site is Meroe, a royal cemetery for dozens of ancient kings and queens. Hidden for centuries due to isolation, these UNESCO wonders are finally being rediscovered. Today, we are working to preserve this incredible legacy of African architectural ingenuity. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to keep exploring the hidden history of our world. Did you know that giraffes are 30 times more likely to be struck by lightning than humans? It sounds like a myth, but it's a shocking reality of the savannah. In the flat plains, their incredible height makes them walking lightning rods. When the clouds darken, they are the tallest targets for miles. It's basic physics. Lightning seeks the path of least resistance to the ground, and in an open field, that path is often a giraffe's head. With savanna storms being so intense and frequent, these majestic animals pay a high price for their stature. Their risk per capita is simply astronomical. It's an evolutionary trade-off. The height that lets them reach the juiciest leaves also makes them a target for the heavens. Stand tall, but keep an eye on the clouds. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more incredible nature facts. When we think of space, we think of silent beauty. But it turns out the universe actually has a smell, and it's pretty gross. Today we're sniffing the cosmic stench of Comet 67P, a discovery that proved comets aren't just ice. They're giant chemical stink bombs. In 2014, the Rosetta probe got close enough to sniff the comet's atmosphere. What it found was a stomach-turning chemical cocktail. It smells like a mix of rotten eggs and horse urine, thanks to high concentrations of hydrogen sulfide and ammonia. To top it off, there's hydrogen cyanide, which smells like bitter almonds but is incredibly toxic. It's a deadly, stinky bakery in space. But these foul chemicals are primordial. They're the same ingredients that eventually helped create life on Earth. Space might be foul, but it's fascinating. Thanks for watching, and stay curious. Did you know the shortest war in history lasted just 38 minutes? It happened in 1896 between Britain and Zanzibar. The conflict began after the sudden death of a pro-British sultan, when his cousin Khalid seized the throne without approval. The British issued an ultimatum to leave by 9 a.m. When Khalid refused, 5 warships opened fire on the palace. The wooden palace stood no chance against modern artillery. Within minutes, the defenses were completely obliterated. By 9:40 a.m., the war was over. Khalid had fled, and Zanzibar officially surrendered to the British Royal Navy. It remains a bizarre record of how quickly global politics could be decided by sheer naval power in the late 19th century. A 38-minute conflict that changed a kingdom. Thanks for watching this quick piece of history. Napoleon Bonaparte conquered continents, but his greatest defeat wasn't at Waterloo. It was in a park, and it involved thousands of bunnies. In 1807, to celebrate a new peace treaty, Napoleon's chief of staff organized a grand rabbit hunt. But he made one hilarious mistake. Instead of wild hares, he bought thousands of tame, domesticated rabbits. These bunnies didn't fear humans. They associated them with food. When the cages opened, the rabbits didn't run away. They charged. They saw Napoleon and thought, "The giant feeder has arrived." The swarm was relentless, climbing the emperor's boots and coat. Napoleon was forced into a tactical retreat, running for his carriage in total humiliation. Some bunnies even jumped into the coach with him. Napoleon had to toss them out of the windows as the carriage sped away to safety. The Battle of the Bunnies remains history's fluffiest fiasco, a reminder that even emperors can be humbled by a carrot craving. When you hear the roar of a chainsaw, you likely think of lumberjacks, forests, or maybe even horror movies. But the true story behind its invention is far more terrifying than any slasher film you've ever seen. Chainsaws weren't invented to cut wood. They were designed by doctors in the late 18th century to aid in difficult childbirths. In the late 1700s, before modern anesthesia, complicated deliveries were often life-or-death situations for both mother and child. When a baby was too large, doctors performed a symphysiotomy, a procedure to manually widen the birth canal by cutting bone. Before the chainsaw, this was done with small knives and handsaws. It was a slow, agonizing, and incredibly dangerous process. Scottish doctors John Aitken and James Jeffrey sought a better way. In the 1780s, they invented the first medical chainsaw. This tool featured a fine, serrated chain that moved around a guide. It was hand-cranked and allowed for faster, more precise cutting. The device worked. It could slice through pelvic bone and cartilage much more efficiently than traditional tools. For nearly a century, variations of this osteotome remained a standard part of obstetric kits around the world. But as medicine advanced and safer methods like the C-section became common, the medical chainsaw found a new purpose. By the late 1800s, loggers realized that this chain mechanism could be scaled up to tackle the world's toughest timber. The tool grew in size and power, evolving from a delicate surgical instrument into a heavy, gasoline-powered beast. It traded life-saving precision for raw industrial power, becoming the tool we recognize on construction sites and in forests today. It's a bizarre irony. A machine now associated with destruction and horror began its life as a tool to bring life into the world. Thankfully, medical breakthroughs have left these brutal practices in the past, giving us the safe healthcare we have today. So, next time you hear that mechanical growl in the woods, remember its strange Scottish medical roots. The history of technology is often stranger than fiction. The chainsaw's journey is a cut above the rest. Thanks for watching. If you found this as shocking as we did, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Have you ever looked up at a fluffy white cloud and thought it looked light as a feather? A typical cumulus cloud actually tips the scales at around 1,000,000 pounds. That's heavier than a massive herd of 100 elephants. So if they're so heavy, why don't they just come crashing down to Earth? The secret is that clouds are made of billions of tiny water droplets. These droplets are so small that they are barely affected by gravity. It's also about buoyancy. The air underneath the cloud is denser than the cloud itself, creating enough force to keep it floating. Rising warm air, or updrafts, act like an invisible elevator, holding those millions of pounds of water suspended in the sky. Next time you look up, remember, the empty sky is actually filled with millions of tons of floating water. Science is truly amazing. Keep looking up and stay curious. In the Victorian era, the line between life and death was often blurred by the lens of a camera. Welcome to the eerie world of postmortem photography. Families posed with their deceased loved ones as if they were still alive, creating a final, haunting memory before burial. Photography was rare and expensive. For many, a postmortem portrait was the first and only image they would ever have of a family member. To achieve a lifelike appearance, photographers used hidden metal stands to prop up bodies, making the dead look disturbingly alive. If the deceased's eyes were closed, photographers would carefully paint open eyes directly onto the plate or the eyelids. This was the ultimate memento mori, a reminder of mortality, but also an act of deep love and remembrance. While it seems macabre today, to Victorians, these photos were a social necessity and a way to deny the finality of loss. It was part of a larger culture of mourning, which included jewelry made from the hair of the deceased. Beneath the eerie techniques was a simple human desire, to hold on to a piece of someone we loved for just a little longer. A haunting illusion captured in silver and glass. Thank you for joining me in the shadows of history. Have you ever wondered how far people would go for beauty? In the Victorian era, the answer was dangerously far. Today, we're talking about the lethal trend of eating arsenic. In the 19th century, people consumed arsenic complexion wafers to clear skin and achieve a pale glow, despite the deadly risks. These wafers were marketed as a miracle cure. Extreme paleness was the height of fashion, signaling high social status. But that glow was actually the first sign of systemic poisoning. Arsenic destroyed red blood cells, causing a slow and painful decline. Long-term use led to scaly lesions, loss of hair, and even teeth. It was the complete opposite of the beauty they sought. The price of following these lethally insane beauty standards was often a premature funeral. The trend only faded as the body count rose. Today, we know better. Let this history be a lesson. No beauty standard is worth risking your life. Thanks for watching this dark slice of history. Stay safe and stay beautiful, naturally. Imagine walking into a town square in 14th century France to see an execution. The criminal? A pig. In 1386, a sow was formally tried for the murder of a child in the town of Falaise. This was a formal trial, complete with a judge, prosecutor, and even a defense lawyer for the pig. After a 9-day trial, the verdict was guilty. The sentence? Public execution by hanging. Bizarrely, the pig was dressed in human clothes for the event. Jacket, breeches, and even gloves. The pig was hanged in the square as a warning that the rule of law applied to everyone. To the medieval mind, this restored divine order. It's a strange corner of history we've left behind. For more weird history, like and subscribe. Believe it or not, the ketchup on your burger today was once sold in pharmacies as a cure-all medicine for serious ailments. In the 1830s, an Ohio doctor marketed ketchup as a remedy for indigestion, jaundice, and even diarrhea. Dr. John Cook Bennett called it compound extract of tomato, and it was peddled across the US as a life-saving tonic. It became a massive craze. People were even taking ketchup in pill form, believing it held the secret essence of health. By 1850, the medicine bubble burst, but people realized they loved the taste, and it evolved into the condiment we know today. It was Henry Heinz who later standardized the recipe, making it safe, consistent, and a global staple. So next time you dip a fry, remember you're enjoying what used to be a dubious health tonic. Who knew? Thanks for watching this tasty piece of history. Have you ever heard of a miracle that defies the very laws of biology? Welcome to the unbelievable true story of Mike, the chicken who lived without a head. In the 1940s, this feathered wonder survived a botched decapitation and became a bizarre national celebrity for 18 incredible months. It all began on September 10, 1945, on a quiet farm in Fruita, Colorado, owned by Lloyd Olson. Lloyd was preparing chickens for market, but when his axe came down on one young rooster, the result was anything but ordinary. The bird survived. The next morning, Lloyd found the bird alive, sleeping peacefully. Astonished by its resilience, he decided to see if he could keep it going. Biologically, it was a miracle. The axe had missed the jugular vein and left the brainstem completely intact, allowing basic life functions to continue. Lloyd named him Mike and began feeding him a mixture of milk and water using an eyedropper, along with small grains of corn directly into his throat. Mike's throat also had to be cleared of mucus with a syringe to prevent him from choking, a delicate task that Lloyd performed faithfully. Soon, word of the headless wonder spread far beyond Fruita. Mike was about to become a household name across America. He was featured in Time and Life magazines, and Lloyd soon took Mike on a touring sideshow circuit, captivating audiences nationwide. People lined up and paid 25 cents to see the bird that defied death, earning Lloyd the equivalent of thousands of dollars a month. Mike was displayed as a feathered miracle. Despite his lack of a head, he could still balance on a perch and even tried to crow. Even scientists were intrigued. Mike was taken to the University of Utah, where skeptical researchers confirmed he was indeed healthy and functional. The studies proved that a bird's brainstem alone could coordinate the complex systems needed for survival, balance, and basic movement. But Mike's extraordinary journey came to an end in March 1947 during a stop in Phoenix, Arizona. In the middle of the night, Mike began to choke. Tragically, Lloyd had left the syringe used to clear his throat at the previous show, and Mike passed away. Today, Mike is a legend in his hometown. Fruita, Colorado, still celebrates him every year with the Mike the Headless Chicken Festival. A permanent metal statue stands as a tribute to his resilience, a reminder of one of the most bizarre chapters in American history. Mike's story is a testament to the sheer resilience of life and the incredible complexity of biology. A feathered miracle indeed. Thanks for joining us for this look at the life of Miracle Mike. Until next time. In the dark heart of the tropical forest, a silent killer is at work. It doesn't use teeth or claws, it uses chemistry. This is Ophiocordyceps, a parasitic fungus that turns ordinary ants into real-life zombies. It's a biological hijacking straight out of a horror movie. It starts with a single spore. Once it lands, it secretes enzymes to burn through the ant's tough shell and enter the bloodstream. Inside, the fungus grows as a network of cells, wrapping around the ant's muscles and invading its central nervous system. The fungus doesn't just kill the ant, it controls it. It forces the ant to leave the safety of its colony and embark on a final, fatal mission. Driven by the parasite, the ant climbs exactly 25 centimeters above the forest floor, the perfect environment for the fungus to thrive. In its final act of obedience, the ant sinks its jaws into a leaf vein, locking itself in place forever. This is known as the death grip. With the ant dead and anchored, the fungus begins its final transformation. It consumes the ant's internal organs for fuel to grow its fruiting body. A stalk erupts from the ant's head, growing several inches long, capped with a bulbous structure full of fresh spores. From this vantage point, the fungus rains spores down onto the forest floor, waiting for the next unsuspecting victim to walk by. As terrifying as it sounds, this parasite plays a vital role in nature, preventing any one ant species from becoming too dominant and overrunning the forest. In some areas, you can find entire zombie graveyards, where hundreds of ants have met the same gruesome fate. The ants aren't defenseless. They've evolved social immunity, grooming infected members and carrying them far away from the colony to stop the spread. And it's not just ants. Thousands of cordyceps species exist, each specializing in hijacking a specific type of insect, from spiders to moths. This natural phenomenon is so haunting, it inspired the infected creatures in The Last of Us, bridging the gap between nature and fiction. But don't worry, Ophiocordyceps is highly specialized. Our complex biology is far too different for it to make the jump to humans. At least, for now. Scientists are actually studying these fungi for their potential in medicine, looking for new ways to manipulate cells and fight disease. Nature's most terrifying puppets might eventually provide the key to saving human lives. It's a strange irony of evolution. Despite the horror of the fungus, ant colonies remain some of the most resilient and successful societies on the planet. The zombie ant fungus reminds us that nature is far more complex and often far more terrifying than anything we could ever imagine. In the endless cycle of life and death, even the smallest creatures play a part in a story that's millions of years in the making. Thanks for watching. If you found this as fascinating and creepy as we did, don't forget to like and subscribe for more wonders of the natural world. Stay curious about the natural world. Female gladiators fought in ancient Rome, a fact that shatters the long-held male-only myth of the arena. Rare but real. These women warriors, known as gladiatrices, battled just like men, thrilling massive crowds. Historical records and stone reliefs, like the famous Amazon and Achillea carving, prove their existence. They weren't just a curiosity. They were skilled combatants who commanded respect and awe. But how did these women end up in the arena? Their journey was as complex as the Roman Empire itself. Surprisingly, many came from high-status families, seeking glory or escaping the constraints of their social class. They trained in ludi, the same rigorous schools as male gladiators, mastering weapons and tactics. They fought as provocatores or essedari, often wielding the short sword known as the gladius. Their training was no less brutal, focusing on strength, agility, and the psychological edge needed for battle. Stepping into the arena meant facing potential death for the sake of public entertainment. Emperors like Domitian were known to host night battles featuring women under torchlight. Imagine the spectacle, the clash of steel under the stars, the air thick with smoke and anticipation. In the sand of the arena, gender mattered less than skill and the willingness to die well. However, this era of the gladiatrix would eventually come to an end in the year 200 AD. Emperor Septimius Severus officially banned women from the arena, citing concerns about social order. Critics argued that participating in such spectacles brought shame to the families of noble women. Despite the ban, the legacy of these warriors lived on in secret accounts and archaeological finds. In London, the discovery of the Great Dover Street Woman hints at the burial of a female gladiator. The items buried with her suggest she was someone of significant status within the gladiator community. Modern historians are now re-evaluating these stories, giving these women their rightful place in history. Their story challenges our understanding of gender roles in the ancient world. It proves that the drive for glory and the spirit of the warrior are not limited to one gender. While records are rare, every inscription found tells a story of incredible bravery. The Colosseum stands as a monument to many, including the women whose names have been lost to time. Their voices might be echoes now, but their impact on Roman culture was undeniable. The gladiatrices prove that history is often far more diverse than the myths we tell ourselves. They fought for glory, for freedom, and for the roar of the crowd. They were the rare, real legends of the Roman spectacle. Next time you think of Rome, remember the women who stood their ground in the heart of the arena. The history of Rome is their history too. Thank you for watching. Have you ever thought about the fact that water isn't actually wet? It sounds like a total brain teaser, but science has a very specific definition for what wet actually means. To understand this paradox, we have to look at the interaction between liquids and solids. In physics, wetness isn't an inherent property of a liquid itself. Wetness is actually the ability of a liquid to adhere to the surface of a solid. When we say something is wet, we're describing that physical connection. This brings us to two key forces, adhesion and cohesion. Adhesion is the attraction between different molecules, while cohesion is the attraction between similar ones. So if water is only wet when it touches something else, what is it when it's just water? To itself, water is purely cohesive. It's not wetting itself. Think about a hydrophobic surface like a lotus leaf. Water beads up and rolls right off. In this case, the leaf never gets wet because the water doesn't adhere to it. At a molecular level, water is just a collection of H2O molecules held together by hydrogen bonds. There is no wetness property in those individual molecules. So why does it feel so wet? Our brains don't actually have a wetness sensor. Instead, we perceive it through a combination of touch, pressure, and temperature. When your brain feels that specific cold, slippery sensation, it interprets it as wet. But scientifically, that's just your nerves responding to thermal and tactile changes. Surface tension is another big factor. It's the cohesive force that pulls the water molecules inward, making them stick to each other rather than the surface. This is what allows insects like water striders to literally walk on water. They aren't getting wet because they aren't breaking that cohesive surface. Take liquid mercury. It's a liquid, but it doesn't wet most surfaces. It stays in tight, silvery beads because its cohesion is much stronger than its adhesion to the table. In chemistry, we use wetting agents to reduce surface tension. This allows liquids to spread and actually make things wet, which is vital for everything from laundry to painting. This concept is fundamental to material science. It's how we design the advanced waterproof gear and medical coatings that we rely on every day. So, to recap, water is the liquid that makes things wet, but wet is a description of the bond between the liquid and the solid. Water isn't wet to itself. In our daily lives, we'll always call water wet, but understanding the hidden physics behind it makes the natural world feel even more incredible. The world is full of these scientific surprises hiding in plain sight. It just takes a little curiosity to find them. Thanks for diving in with me. Physics isn't just in textbooks, it's in every drop of rain. Keep asking questions, and I'll see you in the next one. You won't believe it, but one of history's greatest conquerors, Alexander the Great, was likely buried while he was still alive. Alexander built an empire that stretched from Greece to India, becoming a living legend before the age of 30. But in June 323 BC, while in Babylon, he suddenly fell ill after a long night of drinking and celebration. He suffered from a high fever and excruciating pain, eventually losing the ability to move or speak. The royal physicians were baffled. In the ancient world, his condition looked like a divine curse or a slow-acting poison. On June 13th, his doctors officially declared him dead. But this is where the story gets truly terrifying. For 6 days, his body showed no signs of decay, even in the sweltering heat of the Babylonian summer. Witnesses called it a miracle, proof that Alexander wasn't just a man, but a god who couldn't rot. Today, scientists have a much more chilling explanation: a rare neurological disorder called Guillain-Barré syndrome. GBS causes the body's immune system to attack its own nerves, leading to ascending paralysis from the feet up. Researchers believe Alexander was paralyzed, but fully conscious, his mind sharp, while his body remained a prison. Imagine the horror. He was likely awake, listening as his generals fought over his empire and his funeral was prepared. Because he wasn't breathing heavily and his pulse was faint, ancient doctors assumed he had passed away. He was placed in a golden sarcophagus, a vessel fit for a king, which would soon become his tomb. The funeral procession was one of the most extravagant in history, lasting for over a year as it traveled toward Egypt. Eventually, he was laid to rest in Alexandria. To this day, the exact location of his tomb remains a mystery. Dr. Catherine Hall of the University of Otago first proposed this theory, citing his lack of decomposition as the key evidence. History is full of stories of premature burial, but none involve a figure as powerful or influential as Alexander. It forces us to rethink everything we know about his final days and the limitations of ancient medical knowledge. Even in death, Alexander continues to fascinate and surprise us, his life ending as dramatically as it began. A conqueror of worlds, trapped in his own body, facing the ultimate human fear. What do you think? Was he truly buried alive? Let us know in the comments and follow for more history mysteries. Did you know that oranges aren't naturally orange? In fact, the original oranges were actually green. Coming from the tropical regions of Southeast Asia, these fruits evolved in a climate where it stays warm year-round. In these tropical environments, oranges stay green even when they're perfectly ripe and ready to eat. The green color comes from chlorophyll, the same pigment that helps plants turn sunlight into energy. So why do the oranges in your local grocery store look so vibrant? It's all about the temperature. When the weather turns cold, the chlorophyll in the skin breaks down, revealing the orange pigments underneath. These pigments are called carotenoids, and they've been hiding there the whole time, waiting for the cold. Today, oranges are grown all over the world, but the specific local climate still dictates their natural color. In places like Thailand and Vietnam, many varieties are still sold and enjoyed while they're bright green. But in Western markets, consumers have come to expect their oranges to be, well, perfectly orange. To meet this expectation, some commercial growers use a process called degreening after harvest. The fruit is exposed to ethylene gas, a natural plant hormone that speeds up the breakdown of that green chlorophyll. It's important to know that degreening doesn't actually make the fruit sweeter. It only changes its outside appearance. A green-skinned orange can be just as sweet and juicy as an orange one, if not even more so. Originally, oranges were a hybrid between a pomelo and a mandarin, both of which have their own color quirks. Humans have been cultivating them for thousands of years, selecting for traits like size, sweetness, and yes, color. Regardless of their skin color, oranges remain a massive powerhouse of vitamin C and vital antioxidants. The name orange actually comes from the Sanskrit word for the fruit tree, not the color of the fruit itself. In fact, the English language didn't even have a word for the color orange until the fruit was introduced to Europe. Green oranges are often used in specific culinary traditions to make marmalades or juices with a unique, tangy profile. In nature, perfection isn't always a uniform color. It's a vibrant and diverse spectrum of survival. Accepting green oranges can even help reduce the environmental impact of chemical degreening processes. So next time you see a green orange, remember, it's not unripe, it's just keeping its tropical roots alive. Welcome to a deep dive into one of nature's most fascinating hybrids, the beefalo. You might have heard the name, but do you know why it's a game changer? A beefalo is a real cow-bison hybrid. It's not just a legend. It's a fertile cross that blends the best of two worlds. Breeders cross domestic cattle with the American bison to create a creature that is as manageable as a cow, but as tough as a buffalo. This breeding process wasn't just for show. It was a strategic move to create a hardier, more efficient animal for the American landscape. From their bison side, beefalo inherited a thick coat and a stubborn constitution, making them incredibly hardy in the wild. They can forage in conditions that would be lethal to standard cattle, reducing the need for expensive supplemental feed. But the benefits aren't just for the ranchers. For consumers, beefalo is a protein-packed meat alternative. It's significantly leaner than traditional beef, offering a heart-healthy option without sacrificing that rich, meaty flavor. In fact, beefalo meat is known for having lower cholesterol levels, making it a favorite for those watching their diet. Some call it a Franken animal, but this hybrid is actually a masterpiece of natural crossing and selective breeding. Unlike some other hybrids, beefalo are fertile, allowing them to sustain their own populations on ranches today. They are increasingly popular among sustainable farmers who value their low-impact foraging and natural resilience. Now, let's talk about the taste. Beefalo offers a rich, slightly sweeter flavor than standard beef. It lacks the gaminess sometimes found in pure bison, making it the perfect upgrade for your next backyard barbecue. Because it's so lean, it cooks faster, locking in juices and providing a tender texture that's hard to beat. You can find beefalo at specialized butchers, health food stores, and directly from rancher cooperatives. Choosing beefalo often means supporting local, family-owned ranches that prioritize animal welfare and land stewardship. Their ability to thrive on native grasses means a lower environmental footprint compared to grain-fed industrial cattle. It's a win for the rancher, a win for the planet, and most importantly, a win for your dinner plate. When cooking beefalo, remember to go low and slow to preserve that lean moisture and delicate flavor. The beefalo honors the heritage of the American West while looking forward to a more sustainable future in meat production. So next time you're firing up the grill, think hybrid, think beefalo. Thanks for watching. Lean, healthy, and delicious. Experience the best of both worlds.